Today on CityCast DC. Okay, so you want to impress somebody, but your wallet is given more ballin' on a budget. We've all been there. Good news, Jade Womack, the genius behind Clockout DC, is here to prove that romance does not have to break the bank, even in this very expensive city. She shares DC's best date spots for around $15 or less. Today's Wednesday, March 4th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Jade, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. How are you, Bridget?
I am doing well. I'm excited to talk about this because I think a lot of us here in DC are sort of tightening our wallets. I certainly am. DC is known as a pricey city, but you can still date and go out and meet people on the cheap. Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that fun in DC is so accessible and affordable and just taking advantage of everything the city has to offer.
Is there a secret spot in DC that feels romantic or cool but doesn't cost a ton?
Isn't it true that DC is one of the greenest cities in the nation?
We are consistently voted number one.
We are consistently voted number one. And when it comes to DC, there's so many wonderful places. Like we just recently had all the lotuses and lily pads blooming at Kenilworth Garden. But besides that, you have like the Arboretum, the U.S. Botanic Gardens. I don't know if this counts as a date, but I like going with my boyfriend on a long walk to Lincoln Park and grabbing a coffee from Wine and Butter and just relaxing under the stars. Like there's so many great green spaces in the city.
What would you say is your go-to free or cheap, under $15 or thereabout date spot in DC?
So I would say that the first Friday of the month, DuPont Circle has this thing called Art Walk. It's usually from 6 to 8 p.m. and the list or menagerie of places you can visit changes every month. But there's so many different art galleries and small little galleries and museums that open their doors for free. And so you can do a little art walk crawl around the neighborhood. And it's just a great place afterwards if you wanted to go and, let's say, spend more money and grab a drink somewhere. But you can see lots of very fun things and have these like different moments throughout. In the past, the Embassy of Portugal has been open, for example, or the Phillips Collection. They now do their thing only on the third Thursdays, but museums after hours have a lot of free events. And this art gallery, I think just people have lots of opinions about art. It is very easy to start conversing about.
Yes, and you can learn a lot about the person that you're going out with. You can learn a lot about their art takes, their art opinions, and it's sort of like a built-in conversation piece when you go to a museum on a date.
Yeah, exactly. I think that some people, I get it. They want to impress their date. They want to go to a nice fancy dinner, but you're really just, how good is the conversationalist across and how much can you talk about 3 dishes? Here, you just get so many different moments of artwork. You see how they also interact in public, their sense of direction, passing ideas off from each other instead.
Okay, you mentioned this with going on walks, but what about hikes? I don't think that people don't think of DC as a city that offers good hikes. Is that true?
I don't think so either, but I will say I think the thing is with hiking in DC, it depends how far along you are on your day. If I went on a first date with somebody and they said, let's go to Rock Creek Park, it's like, well, how do you bail out of this date? From point A to point B, you could be stuck with them for a long time in the woods. And I don't know if it's a date. It's not a Survivor audition. But there are so many great hiking spots in the city, like Rock Creek, especially the loop that goes from Woodley Park to Georgetown. You can get some trailhead on the way to Dumbarton Oaks. There's also, of course, the Anacostia Riverwalk, that I think is really underrated in this city as a place to be in nature.
Oh, that's a really good one. And if you're thinking about going out there, again, for safety's sake, I would say if you're going to do a sort of outdoorsy, off the beaten path date, go with someone that you know or tell a friend, whatever, always be safe. But if you were going to do something like that, I feel like a picnic would be kind of a fun kind of way to make it more datey. Maybe bring a blanket, a speaker, that kind of thing.
You say this. However, I have once gone on a picnic date at the Arboretum, and when it was very dewy and gross and buggy and hiking around with this cheese that has been congealed after a while. I don't know if that, I know the image that you're having in your head, I would say that if you're going to do something like that, when National Gallery had those the Friday night concert series that they have, like Jazz in the Gardens, I would trade a hike picnic for like a concert picnic. And so many different neighborhoods have free concerts or like free dancing, such as in Georgetown Waterfront, they have a dance series this summer. Or of course, the Wharf has concerts both on like two different sides, like the old Wharf and the new Wharf has concerts, or in the parks, which is run by the Capitol Hill bid. See, that I think it's close enough to a grocery store. If you pick up stuff together, even get there and you're still fine. Bring the picnic blanket. Imagine you're more in the woods.
This is why you're the professional, because I would show up with all kinds of soggy, sweaty cheeses that I've taken on a city bike from my apartment. Yeah, not a great way to start out a relationship. Very good point.
Yeah, like the brie melted. Oh, you didn't have to do that. Yeah. But one thing that actually people don't know about too, in terms of like this wilderness aspect, is that the Anacostia Riverkeeper, they do a lot of really fun programming, including free fishing on Friday nights, so you can learn a new skill. I think dates where there's an activity centered around, such as the art walk or fishing, things like that is what I gear people towards. I know, of course, outdoor movie nights, you hear about it all the time in DC, but there is such a wide variety and in such fun, unique venues, I would say, such as like Audi Fields having their own, or Opera in the Outfield that happens in Nats Park. Experiencing places and doing fun, unique things is also a fun little date idea as well.
Fun fact about me is that I'm a pretty big nerd. I was so into the X-Files in junior high that I had an X-Files themed birthday party with a cake that said, "The truth is out there." So if you are like me, and by that I mean if you are someone that is still bummed that Fox canceled the show Firefly and lives for all things pop culture, AwesomeCon is for you. AwesomeCon is coming to DC, and this is one, trust me, that you do not want to sleep on. March 13th through March 15th at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center, AwesomeCon is bringing together one of the most incredible stacked lineups I have ever seen. You've got folks like Oscar nominee Paul Giamatti. Yes, that Paul Giamatti. My personal idol, Gillian Anderson, my queen from the X-Files, George Takei, Misha Collins, Adam Savage, Ron Perlman, and so many more fan favorites will also be there. With tabletop and video gaming all weekend, a book fair, an artist showcase, and the family-friendly AwesomeCon Junior, there is truly something for everyone. 3 days, legends everywhere. You don't want to miss it, trust me. Buy your badges now at awesomecon.com.
Hey, I don't know about you, but I think we are super lucky in DC to have so many niche cultural events to enjoy. Like, for instance, a full event celebrating the indigenous art of porcupine quill work. The Art of Quill Work Family Day, hosted by the National Museum of the American Indian, is running Saturday, March 14th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. There'll be live artist demonstrations, guided tours, and hands-on exploration with a museum educator to deepen your understanding of this incredible art form. Families can also stop by the Imaginations Activity Center, where you'll discover how deer hide becomes clothing and accessories, and even design your own rawhide artwork inspired by the museum's collection. Best of all, it is completely free. Visit americanindian.si.edu or follow @SmithsonianNMAI for full event details. We'll see you there.
Hi, I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, a podcast network that includes this show you're listening to, and also 12 other CityCasts in 12 other cities. And each one knows their city as well as your local team knows yours. So isn't it time we connected them? Don't you want to know how they're tackling their bike lane problems and housing challenges and sidewalk dog poop crises? That's why I'm hosting a new podcast called Your City Could Be Better. Because it could be. Every week, I'll chat with a different host in our CityCast network about what their cities are doing right and wrong, the weird things they're trying, and the surprising successes, so that we can all learn how to make our cities a little bit better. Listen to Your City Could Be Better on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, when you're thinking about more traditional going to a bar or a restaurant kind of dates, are there still spots in DC where that can feel cheap? Priyanka, one of our beloved staffers here at CityCast, has this great pet peeve about happy hours where it's just $1 off the normal price that is already kind of high, so it doesn't really feel that happy anymore. Are there actually still cheap food or happy hour or drink related dates in DC?
My knee-jerk reaction would say no. But let me put a caveat here. I think it depends what you're looking for and what you're trying to do. Because with happy hour, I feel like so oftentimes you're fighting a crowd. And I don't know if that's the date that you're wanting to have. So one of the best places in the city for Italian food, Casino Marini, they have $7 martinis on Mondays. It's standing room in their bar. That sounds like a fun, sexy deal. But in reality, I don't think that would be the venue in which you'd want to converse and meet someone. Like maybe this is me in my 30s, I would rather pay full price for a drink in order to be able to hear the person across from me in a comfortable space. And I think that, they would see you at your best versus maybe akin to hiking in the woods in Rock Creek with your congealed cheeses, fighting someone at the bar for a drink. But I don't think there are as many. Of course, there are places like in Union Market, for example, or different food halls where I think you could get a beer, find a quiet space, and you could probably not overpay, let's say, quote unquote, for alcohol. But I don't think off the cuff, like where would be the first date spot that would be out of the normal places. People, some of the best date spots in DC, I don't even think really have happy hours. I don't believe like All Souls, for example, has one.
You're so right also about maybe it might be like I'm all for cheap dates. Sometimes it might be worth it to pay a couple extra dollars to not be shoving your way into a standing room only bar and losing your stuff at the bartender or something because it's not going well. Not a great way to start out a relationship.
Yeah, no, I don't think that anybody benefits from that. And like you're yelling across to try to talk to someone. There's some fun, happy, like wine, cute, cozy spots for date nights that I would suggest to people, like Big Bear Cafe after hours, or for example, a bake joint on Friday nights. They usually have pizza and jazz. I mean, sometimes they have an indoor movie on Thursdays, which isn't really, I think, a date thing as much where you would converse just because of the intimacy of that space. Or like Thursdays, oftentimes the Portrait Gallery will have jazz inside the beautiful Kogard courtyard. They're one of the only museums that are regularly open late. You could walk around, listen to jazz. You could grab a drink from their cafe there, or easily you could go to somewhere in Chinatown if you wanted to go to like a dive bar, like Rocket Bar or Jackpot, and get a drink.
You mentioned Thursdays. Are there days in DC that might be a bit cheaper, like where they might, like places might have reduced ticket prices or that kind of thing?
Yeah, so of course. So yeah, Thursdays are I think Thursdays are the hottest day in DC in terms of events and things to do. I feel like if somebody asks you on a Monday, you're setting yourself up for failure because Mondays are just, first off, there aren't a lot of things happening. A lot of restaurants are closed. And I think it's because maybe they're saving their other days of the week for better things. But Thursdays are the day in DC where you're going to have the most outdoor movies. You're going to have Third Thursdays where the Phillips Collection's open for extended hours. Thursdays is when the jazz happens at the Portrait Gallery. That, and also I'd say Wednesdays as well. Wednesdays and Thursdays are often when museums have their parties after hours. Wordplay Wednesday at Planet Word. It happens usually the first Wednesday of the month. It's not necessarily free, but I think it's like a sliding scale where the suggested donation starts at $5 and slides up. And for that, that's a museum about language and conversing. And so it's great to go with someone to that museum and converse with them.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite museum experience in the city.
Yeah.
It's just nerdy and fun. And I think you get to see somebody in there in a particular kind of light when they're experiencing kind of a nerdy, fun museum experience.
I don't know if this counts under cheap dates, but I recently went to Profs and Pints lecture series. I mean, there's similar programs such as Nerd Night, or occasionally Smithsonian Museums will have lectures after hours. But I was surprised by how many people were on a date at Profs and Pints, because I remember going to it when it first started, and it was like in the basement of La Pop. It's like 30, 40 people. We're learning about Cinderella and the American Dream. We went to Penn Social to learn about ancient sea monsters. 200 people, sold out. And somebody I met there that I know from my run club I think it was a date, I'm not sure, but more or less he picked this lecture and she picked the next lecture they were going to go to on their dates or hangouts. So I think that going around that activity or something to do similar to kind of that Planet Word nerdy vibe you're talking about.
That sounds so up my alley. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, and Nerd Night is a similar program at DC9 where people it's kind of a very more professional version of a PowerPoint party. I hate to use that comparison, but it's similar. People talk about stuff, and even DC9 also has astronomy on tap. That's a bit more of a crowded space, but there's apparently, according to Google Trend, DC has the highest per capita people that work in the space industry. And it shows by the breadth and depth of lectures from international space law to how do we find exoplanets. That's a fun venue. It's at a bar. It's relaxed. It's after work. And people are hungry and curious to learn in DC. Dinner is fun. Drinks are great. But I think people are curious and they love sharing opinions and especially learning with others.
This is what I love about DC. Everybody's kind of a nerd. Everybody has a weird niche passion that they love to go deep on. So yeah, dinner is great. Drinks are great. But I think that is a quintessentially DC thing.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, if you wanted to talk about, I don't know if this is a date that people think of off the cuff. I've heard of many dates where people just go walk around to bookstores with each other or go window shopping with each other and run an errand. And not like running errands, like come with me. Do you want to spend a day going to the supermarket? But hey, do you want to go check out this bookstore with me? And they walk around and such. And one thing I've realized in my research over time is how when you donate a book to the DC Public Library, they don't put it on their shelves. They actually put it in a yard sale. So every week, every library in DC has a book sale of some sorts. And that's kind of, I think, a fun activity that you could go do too.
Speaking of events, I think I typically think of events in DC being around the $20, $30 range. Do you have any good events that might be a bit cheaper that will make good dates?
Yeah, I would say all of the dancing events that are happening in the city, they happen maybe like once a month outside of the Lincoln Memorial, as well as within the Wharf, they have their own every Tuesday dancing program. Those type of events I think are fun. You show up, you dance, you enjoy yourself. Every Thursday, Labyrinth in Eastern Market has free board game night. And there are so many other venues besides a board game store that have board games, like the Boardroom, which is a board game heavy bar in DuPont Circle, but most breweries have so many board games as well. So I think there are ways in which you can create activities or fun in places that not necessarily center on drinking, but have that as there as well. I would also add that you have all these free community days, whether it's at the Capitol Jewish Museum or the National Museum of Women in the Arts or the Phillips Collection that otherwise you'd have to pay full price for. You can go there on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I think that would be a fun date of something to do as well.
Okay, I want to end with kind of a spicy question. You can plead the fifth if you must, but is there a DC date ripoff that you've seen people talk about that you think that folks should avoid, particularly if they are trying to stick to a budget? I definitely have my thoughts on this, but I'm curious for yours.
Oh, well, would you like to share your thoughts first? I would love to hear them.
I mean, I got to go with Priyanka on this one. Any kind of overhyped, overpriced happy hour where they're describing it as a happy hour, but you get there and you feel a little bait and switch where, it's just $1 off the price of one drink that's already too high to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree with you on that. I think that's also something, the restaurant week's coming up, support the restaurants. We're looking at the menus. It's like, this is actually the regular price of a meal, but it just has the name restaurant week on it. This is what normally would cost to go here, or like the happy hour. This is about the same amount. I think the biggest rip off, I would say, this is just a general thing that I just don't like in DC event right now, is that everything you have to get a free pass for. And it sometimes doesn't even matter. Some places, like, for example, there'll be open houses at certain embassies and you have to register in advance, whether it's like a tour or a film or something. But then your pass doesn't guarantee entry because it's first come, first serve. So then you just feel like maybe you're entering a marketing list. I think that kind of stuff. I think mainly it's like that kind of stuff. But I don't know if that answers your question about date ripoffs. I think mainly when you have to reserve a pass, you actually don't have to. But I think that's a general ticketing problem in the city.
Oh, that's a really good answer. Another one is, it's kind of died down now, but there was a time where the sort of overhyped immersive art pop-up experience.
Thank God that's over. Yeah, that's over.
I've been to some
Thank God.
good ones, but like I have been burned by many immersive art experiences pop-ups that were not exactly what they claimed to be.
Oh, yeah, like the Lego one was terrible. The Diego, Frida Kahlo, there's so many bad immersive experiences. Luckily, I think that fad has gone away. I think people, after being in such a digital pandemic screen time way, people want to touch. They don't want to be immersed in screens. They want to be immersed in actually feeling and touching things. Actually, here's a tip. There are some really great subscriptions you can have in the city. And one that I've really benefited from is the AMC Rewards, where you can pay $25 and see up to 4 movies a week. And that has been clutch for my boyfriend and I when we want to have date night and just escape from the city.
Oh, I am also an AMC Rewards member. It reminds me, do you remember MoviePass? It reminds me of the glorious days of MoviePass.
Yes, it does. It does. The one thing is that there's obviously all these exclusions of certain promos, like Studio Gilby Fest is not on the AMC Rewards. But in terms of like, it will pay for itself once you go a few times.
Exactly. Well, Jade, thank you for being here. Thank you for hipping us to all these cheap date nights. Maybe I'll see you at one of these, hopefully not at an overpriced, overhyped pop-up art experience.
Well, this being doing charades at the really loud happy hour across the bar.
Exactly. That is all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend over your next cheap date. You can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. And be sure to become a CityCast neighbor. Head to membership.citycast.fm to join. It's about the same cost as those cheap dates you heard about earlier in the episode. Just $10 a month. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you soon.